Hello, everybody, and welcome to Reviews That Don't Matter with Jessica Hitt. My name is Jessica Hitt, and on today's episode, we are talking about the disaster movie called San Andreas. Now, I literally just watched this movie, so forgive me if this is a little off the cuff, but let's just do it. San Andreas stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Alexander Daddario, and Carla Gugino. That's not how you pronounce her. It's the mom from Spy Kids. Also starring Paul Giamatti, who's also in this. San Andreas is a super fun movie, disaster movie, especially, obviously it's very ridiculous, and obviously millions and millions of people die, but that's what I look for in a disaster movie, is gruesome deaths and people deciding to pause in the middle of saving somebody to kiss their loved one or something like that. Basically, this whole movie starts off with a daring rescue led by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He's a rescue person. He's saved over 600 people or had 600 missions or something like that. Anyway, a landslide happened, and a young girl basically is holding on for dear life in a giant canyon with her car stuck to a very thick branch, apparently, keeping it up. And so they have to fly a helicopter into this giant little it's actually a really tiny sort of canyon thing. I don't know the proper word for it. Sorry. Anyway, they save her. That's our introduction to the man of the movie, The Rock. Then we get introduced to his family situation, which includes an almost ex-wife, a daughter, apparently another daughter that is apparently dead at this point in time, and then also the almost ex-wife's new boyfriend who they're moving in with. And then, of course, we have the second part of the movie where it has Paul Giamatti's character, who's a seismologist, and we introduce him and him and his research partner and very good friend, apparently, have somehow found the tell signs of an earthquake about to happen. So they can kind of predict it, which, really, how much use is that, considering they can only predict it a couple minutes before it happens? So they decide to go to the Hoover Dam area, where they just had a minor earthquake, which is crazy considering it's not on any tectonic plates, and really didn't realize that you could really have an earthquake there necessarily. And so they go there, and then they predict one, and then his research partner dies. So, spoiler alert, by the way, this is just going to be filled with spoilers. This movie is 4 years old, so that's your fault. The guy dies really heroically, though, so it's totally worth it. But at the same time, I still feel like they could have saved him. Sure, his foot was caught on a barbed wire thing, or whatever it's called, a pole thing. And come on, the guy's got to have so much adrenaline through his body. He should have just been able to take his foot off and then climbed up before the entire Hoover Dam got swept away. I firmly believe that he could have saved himself in the time that it took him to tell his friend to not save him. And goodbye, or whatever he said. So Paul Giamatti's theory was totally proven, and he goes back and he's mourning his friend, and then he does an interview with the same documentary crew that was with The Rock when he was doing his daring first rescue of the teenager in the car in the canyon, and they are talking about tremors and earthquakes and all that kind of stuff. And then they get interrupted, and they say that there's a giant magnetic field or whatever they're using to predict these things that's going all up the San Andreas Fault. That's the movie, San Andreas. So basically this just means most of California is about to get wrecked. At this time, The Rock is actually taking his helicopter on a maintenance mission before he heads over to the Hoover Dam to help search and rescue, of course. And then he decides to call his ex-wife, or soon-to-be ex-wife, almost ex-wife, to apologize for the way that he acted towards her earlier when he learned that they were moving in with the new boyfriend, which, is kind of understandable. Anyway, so she is at lunch with her new boyfriend's sister, played by Kylie Minogue, who has one little scene in this movie, and she's a complete bitch. She just literally casually is asking her all these questions, and then casually asks her, "Oh, and then your other daughter who drowned?" Okay, there's no need to bring that up right now. So we know what happened to the other sister, so you kind of realize how this family fell apart, really, because they seem to be pretty solid and respectful and still on decent terms with each other. And while they are on the phone, the first earthquake hits, and it hits big, and she grabs the phone. She's like, oh, it's an earthquake. What do I do? And he's like, get to the roof. And so she tries to get all the way to the roof, and he decides to fly his plane, because they're in the same city at that time, I believe LA. And so he, drives around or flies around on his helicopter, going to get her, while everybody else in the in the building basically dies, including Kylie Minogue, who instantly runs out the door. And then Carla Gugino's character opens it, and there's nothing there anymore because it all just collapses. So that happened. And then a little bit after that, we have in San Francisco, because the daughter and the new boyfriend, how do I explain this? So the Rock couldn't take his daughter to her volleyball game in San Francisco, and so the boyfriend volunteers. So he took his private jet all the way to San Francisco with her, and they're kind of bonding. He's really nice, and he's just like, I'm not going to try to, replace your dad. I understand your guys' connection and all that. I just want you to know that, but I am here for you, and, I want to get to know you. And you're like, okay, this is a good guy, It's not a terrible man that the boyfriend is. And then they are in this man's building, because he owns an architect building or whatever, or architect firm. And she starts talking to this young kid that looks about her age, who is definitely having an interview with someone there. And you know it's got to be the love interest, obviously. And then his kid brother's there, because you bring your kid brother to an interview, but whatever. Which they did note that was weird. So, I give them a pass on that one. But what I don't give them a pass on are the two terrible English accents that these kids were putting on. First of all, the older one is from Australia, should never be doing a British accent. The other one's Irish, who can also not do a British accent. And I could not stop thinking about that through the entire movie, how bad it was. Why don't you just make them American? But then again, they probably couldn't do an American accent. So I've got a lot of questions on that end, on how they got hired and how they passed that test of accents. And honestly, I'm not one to judge on accents, because I can't do any whatsoever. I couldn't even do a Southern accent. I can barely even understand accents. So I really shouldn't be judging, but they were bad. They were like Emma Watson's American accent bad. So then, before the earthquake hits, they kind of separate. Good luck. She gives him, the little kid, her number to give to the older guy. It was really kind of sweet. I liked him. I did. I can't help it. Anyway, the daughter, played by Alexandra Daddario, and the boyfriend or the mom's boyfriend, go down to the parking garage to leave. And then, of course, it first hits, and they get into a lot of trouble, and she kind of gets pinned down because she can't move her legs in the car because of things that fell on it. And he is trying to help her, and then tries to go for help because he can't do anything about it, and then tells the security guard, sees someone die, and he just leaves her there. So, luckily, the two young men that she met earlier overheard him, decide to go down there and save her in a very genius way, I must say. I guess, he was going for an engineer job there, so that helps. And I'll tell you this, the MVP of this movie is Alexandra Daddario, because she knows a lot of crap. She's able to, makeshift her own radio to call her dad, to let him know that she's okay, and then to figure out a plan, and then she raids a lone fire truck and gets a whole bunch of, supplies for them, so good for her. I like at the very end of the movie, where The Rock is like, thanks for taking care of her, and the older guy's like, well, I think it was more she was taking care of us, but you're welcome. So I appreciate that nod to her being awesome. And honestly, I got what I wanted out of this movie. I got a twisty-turny way to get to the family members, and it packed a punch. I think that I was invested in these guys meeting back up. I teared up a little bit at one point in the movie, and a lot of people died. And the great part is they saved some people, and then 5 minutes later, they're all dead because a giant tsunami hits because of the earthquake. So overall, I really, really enjoyed this movie. I would watch it again. I think it's one of the better disaster movies that I've seen. Definitely better than Geostorm, because this is what I consider a good disaster film. That's also it's heartfelt but fun, as opposed to it being really meaningful. How some of them try to be we did this to ourselves, or the aliens are attacking, we need to hold our loved ones close. This was more just a fun one that had a nice little emotional punch to it. And it had a really good cast. Quite honestly, like, I liked everyone in the cast. I still think that the two with the janky accents, like, I liked their characters, I liked the actors and how they played them. I just hated those accents. Okay, everybody, I hope you guys liked this review. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Comment down below what are your thoughts on San Andreas. What are your favorite disaster movies? I have not seen too many, so maybe I will review them. I'll take requests. Also, don't forget to subscribe. I make videos Monday through Friday, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.